Hello everyone, I am Big Bird of Life 3 TV. Today's topic is about metacognition or meta-consciousness, titled The First Experience of a Mackerel. Let's get started. When you see a fish on the table, if you call it a mackerel, the fish gets confined in the system of signs and symbols. In other words, as soon as you recognize a fish on the table as a mackerel, the fish becomes the subject of understanding, the subject of interpretation, and the subject of criticism. If you come up with a blue sea as you think of a mackerel, mackerel and the blue sea belong to a world of your experience and metaphor. On the other hand, if you come up with a blue sky as you think of a mackerel, mackerel and the blue sky belong to a world of your thought and meta-consciousness. The world of symbols in which a mackerel becomes a blue sea and the world of symbols in which a mackerel leads to a blue sky are linked to each other through the relationships between universality and probability, which describe two types of meta-awareness. When you think of a mackerel, if you come up with a blue sea and then associate the blue sea with the blue sky, the blue sea and the blue sky demonstrate the expansion of consciousness in which an object called a mackerel is expressed as the form of your thought or consciousness through your own consciousness system. Through your consciousness and thought, if you can think of a blue sea and then a blue sky by seeing a mackerel, then the blue sea and the blue sky are connected with the mackerel through the symbols that have the characteristics of probability and universality. This is called imagination, and it can be expanded on the basis of material experiences, which is thus called material imagination. Between signs and symbols, and between symbols and symbols, there exist objects or material substances, which are called objective correlatives. When seeing an objective correlative called a mackerel, some people can only think about a mackerel, but some other people can come up with many related symbols or objects, such as a blue sea and blue sky. In this case, it can be said that the latter people have more multi-layered thinking structures. Mackerel in English is written as 고등어 in Korean, 사바 in Japanese, and Mackerele in German. There are many signs that express an object called mackerel. The relationship between signs that express any particular object called a mackerel is called a meta-relationship, which is expressed through meta-language. As various expressions arise between signs, meta-language is diversified. As various combinations occur between signs and symbols arise, meta-awareness becomes more complicated. As a person can exert various combinations between symbols that he uses, his spiritual awareness gets higher and he becomes more skilled at utilizing abstract languages and high levels of languages. The ability to use abstract languages to express objects or phenomena reflects the capability of meta-awareness. Also, the ability to develop languages in a more advanced and sophisticated way determines the level of meta-awareness. The meta-world is a world of feelings and intuition, and this world is perceived through the process in which you notice the essence or nature of things spontaneously without any effort. An enriched meta-world means a high level of imaginative power. The diversity of the meta-world is enabled by creative thinking. The multi-layered meta-world means the high-level spiritual awareness and the deep and wide range of meta-awareness. If your meta-world is enriched, you are good at using abstract languages. If you can create your meta-world in a diverse way, it is evident that you can exert multidimensional thinking with highly developed creativity. If your meta-world is multi-layered, it means that you can easily understand the essence of phenomena through meta-awareness. If you have a flourishing meta-world, it means that you can make complex things simple and that you can create complex things out of simple things. If you have the diverse meta-world, it means that your ideas or thoughts are not simple or narrow-minded, and that you can understand and embrace various aspects of essence and phenomena without any prejudices. If you have the multi-layered meta-world, it means that you are highly skilled at understanding the relationships between signs and interpreting the relationships between signs and symbols, and that you have a high level of meta-awareness about the relationships between symbols. Meta-awareness is the insight into the essence and phenomena and refers to the integration of the invisible world and the visible world. Also, meta-awareness means the integration of senses and consciousness, as well as the integration of emotions and consciousness. Meta-awareness refers to the state of spiritual enlightenment that allows you to access the essence of things beyond the prison of languages. Meta-awareness is related to the state of tono, meaning sudden spiritual awakening, which is known to be achieved through jamsu, which means gradually spiritual practices. In addition, through meta-awareness, you will be able to notice the essence of phenomena spontaneously without any efforts or learning processes. At the moment you think of Mackerel, if the mackerels that appear in literary works or movies come into your mind at the same time, those mackerel are not real mackerels that you can see and feel with your senses. Those mackerels you encounter through literary works or movies are the signs or symbols expressing the mackerels that have been reborn by being connected with each other based on probability and logical necessity. In the relationship of the meta-languages mediated by the object called Mackerel. All of your cognitive and consciousness systems related to Mackerel, including your experiences in Mackerel and your images about Mackerel that you can imagine, are called your meta-world for Mackerel. People who have their own meta-world for Mackerel live their lives by sympathizing or colliding with each other's meta-world. Thinking of Mackerel, are you standing at the intersection of meta-awareness for Mackerel? Then, let me ask you some questions. What would the first experience of a Mackerel be like? What would the Mackerel's first experience feel like? The more diverse and enriched your meta world for Mackerel is, the more likely you can answer this question. I wish you could meet someone who is standing at the intersection of meta-awareness about the first experience of a Mackerel and who you can communicate with so that both of you can share each other's meta world about the first experience of a Mackerel. What a wonderful world of meta. In the world of meta-awareness and in the state of meta-awareness about the first experience of a Mackerel, I, Captain Udeka, am waiting for you who are female Mackerels or male Mackerels who will have the first experiences of Mackerels and will talk about the meta world, about the first experiences of Mackerels. I am looking for people who are the Mackerels who want to unfold their capacities to their utmost in the meta world of Captain Udeka. I invite Mackerels whose spirit souls can communicate with others and who want to amuse themselves in the meta-consciousness of Captain Udeka and have the first experiences of Mackerels. April 29th, 2019, Udeka wrote. Translated by Mul, edited by SNY and Metrika. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.